The Argent Shroud are an order of the Adepta Sororitas known for their mantra of deeds, not words. So let's look exclusively at the words they use before the battle. Do you remember in 9th edition of Warhammer 40,000 there were Sacred Rites? You prayed for a bonus at the start of the game and either picked one to get or you rolled 2 dice and got random bonuses. It is like that. Or do you remember that Bretonnians in Warhammer Fantasy Battle used to pray before the battle to get the lady's blessing? Well, how they do that now in the Warhammer the Old World because we're not in the dark times anymore and the sisters and the Bretonnians actually have support. Damn okay. Praying, that mechanic. These are called the Hymns of Battle. So how do the Hymns of Battle actually work? You can only do this once per battle, that is important, and you do it at the start of the battle round, which is not necessarily the start of your turn, and you have to have at least one Adepta Sororitas character on the battlefield. This doesn't have to be the Blessed Orator, any character. You discard 2 miracle dice to activate it, so finally there is a use for the 1s and 2s that I keep rolling. And it also means that the Army of Faith, with its stratagems and enhancements that give you more miracle dice, is the most compatible with the Hymns of Battle, which is thematic. Until the start of the next battle round, you get the hymn bonus to all Adepta Sororitas character units in your army. So that will apply to standalone characters like Ephriel Stern, just pretend she's alone and doesn't have an Eldar Stalker, and it will apply to units led by a character, so an extra stipulation for using these hymns is that it will only apply to certain units. Exorcists and Castigators won't get the bonus, Dominions that aren't led by a character won't get the bonus. It also doesn't apply to battle-shocked units. They're praying for their life, or praying for forgiveness, they're not singing hymns. If you were able to un-battle-shock a unit, such as with the Dialogus Loudhailer ability, then the unit would get back to singing hymns immediately. You can pick one of the hymns to be active for the battle round, or roll 2 randomly. If you rolled a double, you reroll both of the dice until you get 2 different results. This in itself isn't counted as a real reroll, so you can use a requisition for battle rights to reroll the final result if you don't like it, and that lets you reroll 1 or both of the dice. Let's go through the list of hymns so that you can tell me your favourite. The Litany of the Emperor's Will is the first, and I can see this one being popular. The units it applies to move 2 inches more and get an extra +1 to advance and charge. So this is great if you want to have Zephyrim coming from reserve, they can now charge on an 8 instead of 9. And don't forget their own inbuilt reroll. And this does stack with the Triumph for a potential +4 movement and +2 to charge. That can be an absurd speedy boost for Morwen Val, character, and Paragon Warsuits. Move 12 inches, and a bonus to charge can see them go from your deployment zone where they are safe, straight through to charge against an enemy near their deployment zone. The second Litany of Faith is the Verse of Divine Protection. While an Imagifier provides good protection and the Hospitaller provides more protection, this is a great extra boost. Units that it applies to, hit by a damage 1 attack in combat or shooting, add 1 to their save. So Sisters with a 2+ armor save. Awesome. And this can stack with the benefit of cover, so -2 AP will still be saved on a 3+ if you're in cover. It won't help against damage to attacks, but having multi-damage attacks hit your sister squads is probably something the enemy would instead be directing against your tanks, which don't get this bonus. Hymn 3 is the Chorus of Perfavid Belief, the Hymn of Recycling. Each time an applicable unit makes an act of faith, add 1 to the miracle dice. So using a miracle dice of 5 becomes a 6, and it will trigger things like lethal hits or sustained hits, because a miracle dice always counts as an unmodified dice roll. If the miracle dice was already a 6 before any changes, after using it, you get a new miracle dice. I don't think this works with the Dialogus to exploit changing a miracle dice to a 6, but that may be up for debate. As with all things 40k, the rules are often open to interpretation until someone with some authority rules one way or another. As a person who knows about Adepta Sororitas, and other YouTubers are unlikely to cover this, I'm saying that changing a miracle dice of like a 3 to a 6 with the Dialogus won't generate a further miracle dice, if you're using the hymns as well. That seems to be the intention. There, now it's decided, and you have functioning rules to work with, which is really all anyone cares about. Games Workshop is not going to come back to this and explain the nuances of modified and unmodified dice when miracle dice substitutions are considered to be rolling an unmodified dice of that number, but not modified. Forget it. Next hymn, so my head stops hurting. The fourth hymn is the refrain of Holy Guidance. Bullets go bang. It improves the armor penetration of ranged weapons by 1. This can stack with Divine Guidance as a stratagem in the Army of Faith to get -2 AP on shooting attacks. Why yes, I would like AP -6 melter guns and AP -3 heavy flamers. Hymn number 5 is Catechism of Holy Wrath, the combat choppy one that Bloody Rose players will always be picking. An extra attack and strength for melee weapons. While you may think that this is great for a Pentia, remember that this bonus only applies to units with characters. So only in the Penitent Host, where you can find an enhancement to have a character attached to a Repentia squad, will this work. And then you want to use the Hymns of Battle before your unit dies to Overwatch from a unit 1/3 its points value. But Battle Sisters punching at a tactical marine level is also not to be dismissed. The next track to be played on Von Carmian's radio station, Adepta Sororitas Hymns, all singing, all praying, is the 6th one, Vow of Unbridled Valor. Oh yeah, I remember how to win at 40k. All applicable units get +1 leadership and +1 objective control. You take objectives and are less likely to be battle shocked, because you have higher leadership. You will also have to declare that you're using this before something like the Tyrannid Shadow in the Warp is decided to be declared, but if you control some objectives and want to keep it that way, this is the hymn to use. Which one is your favourite? I know it will depend on the battlefield situation at the time, but I also know you have a preference for how your sisters play. I think that unless I need one particular thing right now, I'll just take some random rolls to get more cool stuff. Unlike Sacred Rites, which could be like, oh hey, anti-psyker stuff. I don't need that right now. I'm playing against World Eaters. But these hymns, they all seem great. Before you even think about scarpering off now that you have the hymns, click that like button and then this video will come up in your liked playlist so you can see it again for reference. And I'm going to go through the rest of the Crusade rules that were released here so that if you want more Crusade goodness for the Adepta Sororitas, you don't have to look elsewhere. There are 2 new agendas to pick at the start of the battle to get more experience points. Judgment of the Faithful is letting you kill stuff. Each time an enemy unit is destroyed by one of your Adepta Sororitas units, they get 1 XP, to a maximum of 2 XP. If the enemy unit was killed by a character or character unit that was the Blessed Orator, they get 2 XP for the kill, or if the Adepta Sororitas was chanting Hymns of Battle because they had a character with a unit during the battle round the hymns were active, and they destroyed an enemy unit, this is also 2 XP. The other is Sacred Grounds. This is very similar to and stacks well with Defend the Shrine. Defend the Shrine makes your opponent pick an objective marker not in their deployment zone to be a shrine, and you get bonuses if you control at the end of the game and penalties if you don't. For Sacred Grounds, for each objective marker not in your deployment zone that you control gives you 1 XP to a Sororitas unit controlling it at the end of the battle. And if you ended the game controlling more than half the objectives on the battlefield, which can include your home objective, you get an extra requisition point. What do you spend requisition points on? Well, you could spend them on Rites of Battle before the game. This is the requisition that lets you reroll the hymns. Just remember to spend the requisition before the battle. Or the other new one is Devout Warrior. One character with legendary rank, so having the highest rank and more than 50 XP, and they were the Blessed Orator at the start of the battle, they can get 1 extra battle trait where you roll on a table and get a bonus. Normally you can't have more than 6 battle honors, but this is an exception. Very nice if you have a long-running Crusade army, like I do, and have hit the cap. And for those characters, there is a new unique table for characters only. In the Adepta Sororitas Codex, we only had 3 traits for characters, but the characters could also use the infantry trait table, unless they were Junith, who is mounted, and can't get traits anyway because she is an epic hero. The first one is Conviction of Faith. At the start of the battle, you get an extra miracle dice. If the character is the Blessed Orator, you get 2 miracle dice. Great! Now you have enough miracle dice to sing the hymns Battle Round 1. Number 2 is the Inspiring Orator. You get more hymns. At the start of each battle round, roll a single dice. Yes, I know a single dice is a die, but Games Workshop uses phrasing like 1 dice, and then a typo won't confuse things. I'm not telling anyone to die, and Germans aren't told to roll the. This says the Queen. At the start of each battle round, roll a single dice. If you like that hymn, you can discard one miracle dice to have it activate for that one unit for the battle round. And this does seem to work even if you are in a battle round where you have the regular hymns active, but any duplicates of the same hymn don't stack. So that is potentially 3 hymns all being sung by the same unit. How they keep up, I don't know. Maybe they switch after each verse. 3 is Raging Fervor. That is the next battle trait for characters. If the character is leading a unit, reroll hit rolls of 1. If this is the battle round when you are singing hymns, also reroll wound rolls of 1. Always nice to have rerolls, and if you have a canoness who doesn't have the Rod of Office, now you can always be rerolling 1s. The 4th battle trait is Solemn in Prayer. If the character is on the table, you can reroll a miracle dice in your command phase. This should stack with the Chaplet of Sacrifice from the Hallowed Martyrs, just don't re-roll the same miracle dice more than once. 5 is Bombastic Projection. It is a 6-inch aura that makes units into characters, but only for the purpose of letting them be affected by the hymns of battle. This is what you need to make the Exorcist operator sing as well as play the organ. You wouldn't really want to have a character hanging around the Exorcist for a once per game bonus, unless maybe it was a jump canoness and you were using the different auras that you can get from the stratagems. Potentially. But for a mechanized Sisters army, probably one using the Bringers of Flame detachment, now the transport, like an Immolator, will also get the hymn bonus if it is near the character with this trait. The last one is Faithful Devotee, another aura of 6 inches, and it doesn't have anything to do with the hymns. Each time a unit within range, including themselves, performs an act of faith, you gain 1 random miracle dice on a roll of a 6. It is a shame that that miracle dice isn't an automatic 6, and that it is so unlikely to happen, but that is another trait you could get. For Crusade battle traits you need to level up to get one, though there are other ways in certain Crusade missions to obtain them. And you can pick the one you want, usually the one that suits the narrative situation. Turn the cool thing that happened into a permanent thematic benefit. Or you can roll randomly on the table, and some Crusade campaign groups want to go with that method as it seems fairer than potentially just picking the best and most powerful outcome. There are 4 more battle traits, but each of these is unique, and you can only include them once in your Crusade, and they give you a sort of level up feeling for the Sisters, like the Adepta Sororitas Crusade allows your Apothecary to be a Chief Apothecary, or Librarian to be a Chief Librarian. The Dogmata can correct any errors where you didn't get a battle trait you wanted. If the Dogmata is still on the battlefield at the end of the game, you can pick any Adepta Sororitas unit from your Crusade army and spend a Requisition point to swap any one of their battle traits for any other battle traits they could have. Because there are abilities like this, unless there is a super clear narrative reason for an upgrade, I prefer to roll a random trait. The upgrade for the Hospitaller is that as long as she is still on the battlefield at the end of the game, she can pray for the dead sisters if one of your units failed an out-of-action test. All Adepta Sororitas units still on the battlefield get 1 XP. Similarly, the Imagifier, if she is still on the battlefield at the end of the game, you can pick an extra Adepta Sororitas unit to be marked for greatness. And lastly is the Dialogus. She becomes like the Calidus Assassin. Enemy units within 12 inches that use a stratagem have to pay an extra command point to use it. Very disruptive. I hope she is safe in a unit of Battle Sisters to keep that up. It isn't a religious crusade without relics, and we have more relics, including the return of some favourites from past editions. In the Artificer corner, there are 3 relics. The icon of Kairos can be given to a Canoness, Priest, or Dialogus to allow them to use their once per game ability a second time. Not necessary for the Dialogus to un-battle shock a unit within 12 inches, as I find that rarely comes up even once. The Canoness gaining a 2+ invulnerable save for another phase is more useful, as she could survive a nasty shooting and then fight phase. If you have her alone to complete secondary missions when using the Pariah Nexus mission deck as part of a Crusade game, something you can do with rules in a previous White Dwarf, now she can last longer. Otherwise, duplicating the Priest's ability to fight better can help you get through difficult combats. The Armor of Saints is for Battle Sister characters. It can't be worn by a priest. Your character gets a 2+ save, and the first time the bearer loses 1 or more wounds, you gain a miracle dice of a 6. So even if you die, there is an extra good miracle dice. Do you realize how silly that sentence would sound if I used die instead of dice? This is a relic that feeds into the Hallowed Martyrs attachment for theme, but it is described as being blood red armor, so a Bloody Rose army may like this too. The third and last artificer relic is the Signal Sanctorum. This is your deeds, not words, as the bearer's unit can shoot or charge in a turn that it fell back, and can do both if this was the battle round where the army is intoning hymns of battle. So if you use the trait to have hymns affect just one unit, even this unit, it wouldn't be that turn. It would be the turn when the whole army is singing the hymns. There are two antiquity relics, the Rod of Grace, the relic of Helena the Virtuous. If carried by the Blessed Orator, you can intone hymns of battle twice per game, not once, though each time you have to discard the required 2 miracle dice. And you can't sing twice at the start of the same battle round. But you could pick the Refrain of Righteous Guidance to kill enemies on objectives, and then Vow of Unbridled Valor or Verse of Divine Protection in the next battle round to make sure you hold them. The Triptych of the Macarian Crusade only works while leading a unit and grants a 5+ invulnerable save to all models in the unit, and gives more resistance than that, as once per phase you can discard any miracle dice to change your damage of an attack to 0. I know we would want this on a vehicle, but you can't. But I will take this on a unit of Sisters or Dominion Squad with a character like a Canoness or a Palatine, as it saves me needing a Hospitaller or an Imagifier. And the final relic is a legendary rank relic, so that is +3 Crusade points to include the model carrying it. This is the Book of St. Lucius. The Book of St. Lucius is back. If the bearer is the Blessed Orator and you choose to select one hymn instead of rolling the 2 randomly, this book lets you roll 1 randomly in addition. If you roll the same as you picked, you re-roll. This relic means you will always get the hymn you want, and also another one. I really like these extra Crusade rules because I'm not a fan of the whole living saint to martyred saint arc that just repeats. This is much nicer and still feels very Adepta Sororitas focused. The hymns are useful when used in the 2nd or 3rd battle round, and I do suggest picking the Army of Faith when you use them, just so you're more certain that you have the miracle dice to discard to activate it. It is strong, but not too strong as an ability, though that is with the hindsight of one battle using them. It feels more unfair if you haven't any unique Crusade rules like the Thousand Suns or the World Eaters. Oh, you mad heretic! Yeah, that would be a recognizable trait of the World Eaters. Double helpings of Crusade rules while others get none isn't fair. We will have to see what the points show for the Adepta Sororitas in the Field Manual update in October. If you want to know more about the Adepta Sororitas on Crusade, in this video there is a section just for them, as well as chatting about the fun things and drawbacks of Crusade. Or if you don't want to use the Crusade rules, you can still play the Crusade missions, especially if you are finding playing the same army on the same tournament table with the same mission pack is really stale. Whatever lets you have a great day of 40k.